In 2018, Maria Butina was convicted of working as an unregistered Russian foreign agent in the US. She was jailed and then deported to Russia. Butina has always denied being a Russian spy, and at the time, President Vladimir Putin said he had never heard of her. Well, she now serves as a parliamentarian in the Russian State Duma and is a supporter of the Russian military offensive in Ukraine. Maria Butina, good to have you on the show. Now, let's start with the latest developments in Ukraine. Following the recent round of escalation and the warnings issued by President Putin, do you fear the world is now closer to nuclear war than at any other point in your lifetime?
Well, I don't know because I haven't been in other points of our world's life, like the Cuban Missile Crisis or Caribbean Missile Crisis, depends, where you live and how you call it. But I think we are now in quite low point of the relationships between Russia and the West, and that's put the whole world in the danger.
You know, the numbers of casualties are difficult to calculate, and they're disputed by both sides. But after the 1,000-day milestone was passed, how are the Russian people managing to accept the losses of their sons, and do they clearly know what the sacrifice is for?
They absolutely do. And I was elected from a small region, Kirovsky Oblast, which is located in about 1.5-hour flight from Moscow. And I should tell you that we're all united and we help to the front lines, and we cry for those who are, lost their lives, sacrificing them for our motherland. But we all understand that this is a necessary thing to do because we are trying to help to the Russians in their new territories, Russian new territories, that's first. And the second, which I view very, very important, we actually are fighting for survival of Russia and the whole world because we see that Nazism in a full scale is back and we have to stop it. We absolutely have to stop it.
There are arguments put forward, though, that the Russian people don't necessarily know the full story because of the control of the media there. How can Russian people make a clear decision if they don't have a full idea of what's going on?
Oh, come on, they have quite a full idea what's going on because, you can go on Telegram channels and you read a lot of stuff from both sides and people understand what's going on. And even if little villages, people don't rely on TV anymore that much. Only 50% of Russian population is TV watchers. Most of them actually go on social networking and they talk to each other. And you cannot hide the truth. And the truth is that SMO should have been started because NATO was coming so close to our borders that it would put the whole world in the actual stance of the Third World War. So we were protecting Russian-speaking population, and we absolutely understand how important it is to make a step forward today. So people do know the truth and they see the truth. And people who come back from the front lines and they're on their vacation, they tell the truth that how horrible actions are committed by what horrible crimes are committed by the Ukrainian forces that are joined by the NATO forces. Well, we didn't place NATO next to our borders. NATO placed themselves, and they broke their promises. Well, all Russians know it. So we're kind of, smart and intellectual to be able to find out what is true and what is not. And people do it and manage it very well.
And of course, there are accusations from both sides about abuses on the battlefield. But as the new administration comes into the US, eyes are turning towards a peace deal. I want to get your perspective on what you regard as a fair peace deal to end the war.
I don't know. Look, first of all, I don't know if the US administration, the new one, is actually credible in terms of what they say and what they do. Because the last time when Trump came to power, I was living in the United States those days, and then they made me to serve prison time for actually peace building in the US, and Trump was in charge. So he was promising to make good relationships with Russia, but in fact, we had more sanctions and more diplomats expelled, and people were more and more distant, removed from each other. I mean, the US people and the Russians that had ever been. So they say they want to stop the conflict. Do they really want to do so? I don't know. And for right now, I do believe that the US is way more focused on the Israel-Palestinian situation than on Ukraine and Russia, because they clearly understand by now that Russia is going to win. There is no options. And the people, they know the truth, and they're gonna, fight until the last breath. I mean, the Russians, and Ukraine will lose. There is no other way. And additionally to that, now there are so many people fleeing the West, moving to Russia, that you have to be blind not to see that not just the war on a war field is lost by the West, but they also lost the war for the minds and souls of people if they're moving to Russia. Well, I know I handle this program in the Russian parliament, and I can see every single day more and more people come in with families. They just hate LGBT stuff, and they want to live and raise their families and kids in a peaceful community that which they view Russia. So we struggle now how to get so many people in, because they come and they come, and there are a lot of them, and
Well,
they're investors and they have money and do all this stuff. So it's quite surprising for me, but it means the West lost the battle for the souls and for the hearts of the people as well.
well, the report of there haven't been many reports in terms of people moving to Russia on the western side. Perhaps that wouldn't be surprising. But either way, both Presidents Putin and Trump are regarded as tough negotiators. Who do you regard as the stronger of the two? And do you expect any compromise from President Putin on his objectives?
I expect not a compromise, but I expect a consensus. I mean, I expect both sides to focus on what is profitable for each side, but not on the losses and compromises of which one. And I do believe that this is the only way how to negotiate. Well, first, number one thing that the US should do, they just take their selves out of Europe, because that's not their land. That's not their decision. That's not their solution. There is not their land. They had to get out and let people, Europeans, to decide themselves how they want to live, because they now press every single country in Europe, all the countries, to just follow their will, but they shall not have any power here. There is no reason. And they're just flooding Europe with their money and trying to buy politicians. That's what in fact they do. And that's not the peaceful negotiations. Whom to negotiate with? European countries, including Ukraine now, they lost their sovereignty. They cannot just freely talk anymore, which means that if you want a peaceful, a good deal, the US should step back and realize that this is not their land.
Let me get your perspective, Ms. Butina, on how life has changed for ordinary people in Russia since the war began. How have the economic sanctions been felt? What impact are they having?
Well, we have full grocery stores. We don't have any problems central heating. We don't have any skyrocket prices. We're actually fine. The main thing that changed, and this is absolutely true, that we're all now stand together side by side, because any time when in Russia some external force is trying to push us, we become more and more united. That's what happened. So now I see a lot of patriotism in Russia, because we know that we have to be close to each other to stand against NATO. Like, that's not a secret anymore. There is no just Ukraine. This is now NATO fighting by Ukrainian lives. That's how it's called, which means that Russians do know, do understand, and they stand by side. And now we are welcoming new foreigners who come, join us, and help us. This is what's going on. This is the average mood in Russia. Yes, the hardships, but we used to live in the hardships. Look, they had it during their Second World War, the Great Patriotic War, and yeah, we know how to sorrow, but on the other hand, this is how we used to live. So by external pressure, you cannot conquer Russia. Our empire has been lost in for the last ages, and ages, and will stand ages to come. It's one of the longest standing empires in the world, multinational. So we're going to be okay. Hard times, but it will make us stronger.
Well, so presumably the reports of increased inflation must be having an impact on the day-to-day lives and will start to test the will of the Russian people.
I don't think so. We have challenges on our will every single day, and because of the living and the weather conditions. So we're kind of used to go through hardships. But talking of inflation, Yeah, there are hard times. People understand that and they just work hard. And actually, sanctions open new opportunities for us because the companies that used to be very small now became big because now we don't have Western products and they have to take the market and they love to take the market share. And we have a lot of partners in the BRICS countries that help us and they want to trade and we explore new brands. So we don't suffer at all. Meaning that it's not just the US who produces all the things. It's not just Europe. Europe needs Russia because of the gas and and oil and all this stuff. Russia has all the resources in the world. Why would we suffer?
Ms. Butina, I'm just looking at your past, and you lived in America for a while. Of course, it was a difficult time for you. You're accused of being a Russian operative and so on. But are you personally surprised or even saddened by the state of relations between Russia and America? And how do you think the ordinary people in
Yeah.
both countries reflect the views of the leadership?
I am sad because when I came to the States, I expected the American dream to be like we saw in the Hollywood movies on the 70s and the 80s. I expected conservative America and I expected people who just, have one wonderful yard and they have wonderful families, and America has none of that. Like, not anymore. It just, they lost the country. And now all of that I see here in Russia. And it's just, the world is upside down indeed. Do I think that people actually share the views of the US government? Well, I don't know. Because I see so many people moving from the States and they hate the government. Well, and they don't like Russia maybe necessarily, but they don't hate us because people are people. And I actually served time for having friendship dinners that were paid, by the way, by Americans. And like, I don't know why I became a Russian agent then, but anyway. So, and the friendship dinners just showed that people want to talk. That's why I support now the civil diplomacy. Well, I did serve time for civil diplomacy, but I was and I am a peace builder, and I will do it in the future because I believe, and you're absolutely right, if people talk to each other, they don't hate each other, and this is the only way how we can never ever have the third world war, because that's my great hope. I don't want any serious conflict between Russia and NATO because the whole world will suffer.
Well, you obviously must have made friends during that time in America. As you said, you had dinners with them and so on. In spite of your conviction as an unregistered operative in the country, do you have any particular regrets? And are you still in touch with any of those people?
Yeah, actually, yes. Some of them incognito, but they come here to Russia. It's very sad that we cannot communicate so much because they're afraid of the US government that they're going to reach them and, cut them and throw them in prison because I'm under sanctions. And so I don't want to put them in danger as well. But they do travel here because this is friendship. Friendship is eternal. Love is eternal. These are the values that the US lost, but there are still people who are like this. And no, I do not hate the United States. I do not hate Americans because if I do, it means that the bad guys win. So I don't want them to win. That's why I stay faithful. I believe in God. I am conservative, and I will fight for peace until my last breath.
Let me ask you, as in the conversation, you always denied being a Russian spy. So what do you think was the reason the justice system there pursued the case and put you in jail? Was it bureaucracy, do you think, or do you think there was a political reason
Well,
behind it?
I was never accused of being a spy, okay? That's in the first place. Never. It was in the media. It had never been in my conviction, had never been even filed as a paper. And they needed a scapegoat. They needed someone physically to actually arrest at the day when Trump and Putin met. Look at the day of my arrest. Do you think it's a coincidence? They arrested me exactly when President Putin, President Trump were first time to meet, sit in front of each other, and they have this very, very loud case. Because somebody in the US, they don't want peace. They want war because they earn on wars. The private military companies are earning a lot of having wars all over the globe. Question is to us, to Russia, to Europeans, Arabs, Chinese, and all other countries. How long are we gonna let them do that? Are earning money on our life losses? I don't think that's smart. So they needed a scapegoat, they got a scapegoat. And look, if they would have even one piece of evidence that I am a spy, would they let me go in 18 months? No way. I would serve 35 years now, but there was nothing on me. Absolutely nothing. That's why they just wanted the public case and just throw me out of the country, claim I'm the national security threat. Yeah, you can see I'm very much a threat. And then just, make it. And they still having fun on my case, saying like, oh, look, if she met someone, that means she, had relationships. They never ever shown one picture. And as a woman, I'm deeply insulted by that because they were claiming all my this relationship with someone. There is no one picture being made. Isn't it suspicious? Well, because it had never happened. This is a fictitious fake case. This is how Trump says this is fake news.
Well, either way, they put you in prison. Didn't that change your view of the United States at all?
No. No, because people are people, and corrupted guys in the government are corrupted guys in the government. And one thing has changed in me after prison and during my prison time. I spent 4 months on solitary confinement, which is against all the conventions against tortures, but don't forget about it. I found God, or God found me, I don't know. But I know one thing, that I shall not hate, and I do not hate. I forgive them. It doesn't mean I should forget, but I forgive them. So, and the bad guys, they will pay their price because you know what? God is just. This is what I believe. I don't need to do any revenge on them. No, that's not my job. God will do everything. And all the people who acted badly, they will get their punishment no matter what. Even if we do nothing and just sitting and watching that, the justice is going to get.
So if you have moved on, but don't you really want to clear your name officially in the U.S.?
I actually tried. I filed an appeal case, but the problem is that when you're sentenced in the U.S., you lose your right to appeal because you sign a special paper. Oh, they don't sentence you ever. That's the law. That you cannot appeal and you don't want to appeal, which is maybe sad. And I was very excited when Duran's report got out because there is nothing on me there, because that was the case that they actually based my conviction of, meaning the money that supposedly went from Kremlin to Trump. And then look at the Duran report, there was no money. The question is, why did I serve my time? So would I try to prove that I'm not guilty in the US court now? No, because it's corrupted. It does not make sense. I'll just lose money. In the future, maybe. Well, yes, it's insulting that my name was placed in dirt because I'm from a family, a very distinguished family of teachers, and I'm a teacher by myself. I've always been a peace builder, and I teach kids. And now kids look at me, saying like, "Oh, this is a, whatever they call her, a Russian honeypot." I've never been. And this is an insult. But there will be a day. I know there will be a day. And the history will place everything on its deserving spots.
Well, of course, when you were deported from America to Russia, in the American eyes, you were seen as a spy. I'm curious, how were you regarded in Russia? I know Vladimir Putin said he'd never heard of you at the time.
No, well, he mentioned my name a couple of times, but why should he? Meaning I was just a student. That's the thing. I was just a student. Yes, my country fought for me because I'm a Russian citizen, and now I am having this parliament position of fighting for those who are oppressed and are in the prisons because they are Russians. There are a lot of them, and every single person here will stand for a Russian because we know that tomorrow you will be at this spot, and well, I do my job here. I'm a lawmaker. I help to people who move into Russia from the West. That's my responsibility today, and I'm very excited to do so. I do have a lot of work, no weekend, no vacation, not because I'm suffering, but because I love my job. That's why, because I love helping people. I used to be a peacemaker. I love helping people. That's what I do today. I help people in prison, and they put me on solitary again for that. I don't care. I know what I do, and I do it for God. And people will do no harm for me because God is with me. Who are people if God is with me?
Yeah, I was wondering about your visit to the Russian opposition activist Alexei Navalny in jail when he was on hunger strike. Why did you do that, and what did he say to you?
He was complaining that he has so bad conditions, so I wanted to check. And I went there and I saw that he's lying. And I said straight to his eyes. And unfortunately, he didn't grant a permission show the footage of what he was talking to me. He called me, well, I won't pronounce it because I'm a woman and I don't want this to be, public again, but he called me very bad words that is I think inappropriate from man to say to a woman, and it's unproven. He just repeated the US claims. It was insulting, but anyway, that was not my goal. I told the cameras and the camera crew from the very beginning, because look, I almost died. I went through tortures. I know what tortures are. And if I see just a sign that he's like that, I would stop it, because I would never let my country do what they did with me in the US. I lost my health. I lost my reputation, everything for doing nothing. So when I went there, I just wanted to ask how he's doing. And if he needs any help, I do help people to prisons all the time. But he was just fine. He was just cursing me out and just wanted to have, PRI on everything. And I don't know why he did it. I don't know, because I am happy to help. And it doesn't matter if you're an accuser of me, if you're, my former FBI agent, I will always help. That's my nature.
So,
And it was so horrible and painful that he was just, I don't know why he did so. I mean, I can see
so,
some of
so,
his mind.
based on what you just said, Ms. Butina, considering his reaction to you and you were surprised by his very negative behavior with you, first of all, were you surprised when he died in prison? And secondly, having found religion, did you pray for him? Because religion involves forgiveness.
Absolutely, absolutely. Every single moment. And actually, when he got sick first time after that plane flight, that was and God will judge me if I'm lying here, because the first thing there was a COVID time, and I remember it was in my apartment, and I was praying hard so he gets through it, and God gave him another chance and he went through it. And the second time the same. I will pray especially for people who hate me, especially for people who curse me out, because I am a Jesus Christ believer. That's it. You can change it. Well, you can't explain it for a person who is non-believer, but absolutely yes. And again, if his wife tomorrow shows up and she needs my help, I will help. If tomorrow people who curse me out and place me in prison, throw me on solitary, are gonna pray for my help, I will pray for them and I will help, because God says me to do so. It's in the Bible. I will follow the Bible, because I know that this life now is nothing comparatively to what is ahead. So I it's hard to explain the face. It's just it is. I'm helping now here. We have a group of traditional Catholics that were, in the US called domestic terrorists in the FBI note, and many of them now moved to Russia. I am a Russian Orthodox. Why would I help them to establish here a church? They are legal now, they're registered, it's all okay. They have a little chapel now, but I want for them better conditions. I'm not Catholic, why shall I do so? Because I'm Christian. Okay?
Well, so,
And I will help to a Muslim, to a Christian, to anyone who needs help.
on that note, I wanted to touch a bit on your work as a politician in Russia now, and you've touched on this issue of helping people to resettle from the West into Russia. I'd indicated earlier it's not something widely reported in the media in the West, but how important is that as a project for you, and what's your real motivation for doing it?
Well, my real motivation is to help people, because nothing makes me more happy. Well, you can call me selfish and egoistic, but that's what gives me joy, helping others. When I see all these families setting up and having their houses and having jobs and their kids, step by step learning Russian language and, telling me stories about their own culture. I have this wonderful, fantastic family of Joseph Schutzman. He's an American who moved to Russia recently. He has seven kids and three girls, and these three girls asked me to translate Russian fairy tales into English. Well, I'm not great in translating fairy tales, but it's so charming. So for me, the motivation is it's just the soul. Well, I don't know if my soul is pure, because I'm the worst sinner you could imagine. Well, because I have to confess all the time, because I misstep all the time. But it's just I just have joy when people smile and people have their lives and families and they live as conservatives, and it's wonderful. Yeah, we have this program, and actually we just established a group called Welcome to Russia, and I serve on the board. We also have people there with dual citizenship from Germany and France and Australia and Austria. And so those are now Russian citizens. They serve on the board with me because we hold hands. We're holding hands to help to those who are looking for the Salvation Ark. And the Salvation Ark today for conservatives is Russia, and the word gets out. So we have many applications from those people.
Well, let me ask you, Ms. Butina, do you think more people will move if there is a peace deal?
I don't think it's related. Well, the number one reason why people come here is because they believe in God, they're conservatives, and they hate and they do not accept LGBT agenda. Well, if the US will come back being a conservative state and they stop the LGBT propaganda, then maybe people just, always prefer to keep their homes. But you should understand they come not because they want to, they come out of necessity because they know that their kids are trained now and against your will as parents to become LGBT, so you lose your future. So people come here not because they necessarily love Russia, but because they're looking for a safe place where they actually survive and they keep their cultural ancestries until their world and the times to come. That's why. So I don't think it's related to Ukraine or Russia or any military zone. It's more related to their hearts and souls.
It's an interesting point you raise about the LGBT community. What's the situation for those already in Russia? What's their current prospect?
Well, the LGBT in Russia is banned. And absolutely, the whole movement cannot propagate. You cannot go on the streets and do parades and we are very proud of that. We're very proud that we have God in our constitution. We are very proud that we have mother and father in our constitution because we don't take any other gender because God created us this way. And yes, Russia is a conservative state today. And yes, LGBT is not welcome here. Okay? I think that's fine. We don't put people on a treatment or something, but okay, whatever you believe, but you have not bring it to the kids at schools, not on the streets. You cannot do propaganda of LGBT, and you cannot have any official or unofficial movements of LGBT community. Okay, that's just our country. We're a sovereign country. That's what we decided. This is the path we decided for ourselves.
Well, Maria Butina, I thank you very much for making the time to join the show.
Thank you.